what it is. Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs today in the studio, folks. As always, I got a real treat for you. Chris Salerno's in the house.
Thank
is
you
it Salerno?
Salerno, yeah. Italian.
Not Salerno?
No. I get that a lot.
Chris_Salerno_ if you want to follow him on Instagram. A lot of you guys might have heard of him before. He's kind of a little young phenom, 29 years old.
I appreciate that, yeah.
Dude, you're not even 30 yet.
No, I turned 30 in March.
You're a good-looking dude, clean cut. From where?
Thank you. Charlotte, North Carolina.
Born and raised?
No, born and raised in Fort Lauderdale. But I claim Charlotte's home. I've been there almost 19 years, so love it. Love the city.
What'd your dad do growing up?
He was a jack of all trades, so really anything and everything.
But you said you used to hang with him at the business, and you were wearing 3-piece suits at a young age. I was, yeah. And he was in the real estate industry, so he was a real estate broker. But he was a jack of all trades. He really did credit repair too. So thankfully I have great credit, and I understand how those credit bureaus work and how they really screw you over. Did you always have good credit?
Always.
See,
I'm sitting.
Dude, you were raised correctly.
I'm sitting at like 830 now.
I got about an 830, yeah. I bet.
I'm young, so it's hard for me to get it even higher. But yeah, I
put $248,000 on an American Express a couple days ago to donate.
Yeah.
Was I telling you that Jason Aldean thing?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so that's part of it. So when the debt goes up on the credit cards, for some reason, the score drops a little bit. Is that part of that formula?
I assume it is. Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be because you're borrowing more money. So we run everything, I'm sure, very similar like you through Amex or a certain card. And on a monthly basis, we may have $500,000 that we have to, pay because we run everything through. And the banks see, well, now I have a $500,000 basically loan I have to pay back. Once I pay that back, your score jumps right back up.
How do they make money is my question, because I pay it off before there's any interest.
Yeah, they don't make money on me either, because I do the same exact thing.
So why do they do it then?
Because most people have credit card debt. 95% of the population have credit card debt. Because
Bomb Squad, pay attention. If you guys use credit cards, because Dave Ramsey says you shouldn't even have one. Like, how do you rent a car? Like, come on, people. Don't be stupid. You need a credit card. You need good credit. If you have shitty credit, get it fixed.
How do you get a hotel room?
How do you do anything?
You have to put incidentals on a credit card.
Well, a debit card. Well, if you have a debit card, that's essentially the same thing as a credit card.
Yeah, I mean, you're just taking it out. But I don't even think hotels will allow you. Will hotels allow you to use debit cards?
I don't know, because I have credit cards.
Yeah. I only have one debit card, and the reason why, so when I go to the bank to wire large amount of funds, they know who I am. Other than that, I don't carry any debit cards.
Well, I carry them, but I don't use them.
I don't. Well, plus too, I mean, say your wallet got stolen, or say someone stole something.
Well, they'd have to have your PIN number.
But you pull up your credit card, you just cancel them all. So,
I have an invention for that I want to talk to you about later.
Let's do it.
It's called final approval. It would be $1 billion deal. So, Bomb Squad, get your credit fixed if you don't have your credit fixed. If you have bad credit, get good credit. Because good credit, dude, you had it since a little kid. No one taught me about credit. I had shitty credit for till I was about 20, till I was about 30 something.
So like I said,
I'm talking 560, 540.
Damn.
Dude, there was no borrowing money for me.
So like I said on my podcast, my parents taught me what not to do. And so my father had terrible credit, but he was teaching people how to have good credit. And so when I grew up, I knew he had terrible credit. And so I said, okay, that's what you don't do. You don't rack up credit cards. You don't make the minimum payments, because that's how your credit score tanks. So I said, I'm just going to do the complete opposite. And that's what I did.
Well, anyway, young, smart, freaking, and you have QC Capital.
Yeah.
Almost close to our buddy.
Yeah.
Do you ever get that? Does he ever say, hey, that's a little close? That kind of looks like a G.
No, I haven't gotten that. I got Quality Control sometimes, but the logo actually I took from Billions, Axe Capital. I don't know if you ever seen that movie.
Of course, who hasn't?
I know, right? Bobby Axelrod, but yeah, that's where the logo came from. But yeah, QC stands for Queen City. That's what Charlotte's known for, and that's where our headquarters are.
Why Queen City?
That's what they're known for. The Queen came over from British and founded, Charlotte, North Carolina, way back when.
Well, I hear it's beautiful out there.
It's gorgeous.
What, do you like the humidity?
There's really no humidity out there. That's really down south.
Shut up.
No, it's beautiful out there. It's gorgeous.
Well, I got to come check it out.
You got to come check it out.
We landed in Tennessee, Nashville, and it's got some humidity.
You'll like our new office. Our new office has a luxury car storage, a dealership attached to it. So they have all those high-end cars right there. And then they have a cigar lounge that they're building out in the office, which is nice.
Now, you have how much money in your portfolio right now?
Yeah. So right now with multifamily, we have about 375
million.
A million. Of multifamily.
Freaking crazy for 29.
Yeah, we had about $500 million in 2022 and sold off.
What's your debt?
Debt, we're running around on average. Our debt is around 72%.
So you only owe $250 on it.
Yeah, on average.
So you could say you're a multimillionaire.
You could if you broke it down. Yeah,
at 29.
Because I own 100% of the company, so of my QC capital.
How'd you do that?
I didn't do anything else. I didn't party. I wanted to gain knowledge. I wanted to read books. I was dyslexic through school. I dropped out of college, and I was dyslexic. I was in special reading classes. Teachers had to read me tests, and I realized that I wasn't interested in what they were teaching me. But you put a business book when all the kids went to spring break. I went to Barnes and Noble, sat down, read stocks, bonds, mutual funds.
That's why you're not married. Yeah, you were kind of a nerd.
So I was engaged, but no, I was engaged, but I decided not to get married. I don't believe in marriage.
Why?
Well, the woman can take everything from you like this.
No, they can't.
In the state in North Carolina, they can't.
Not if you have everything in a trust.
If you have, correct. Yeah. If you have everything in a trust, but why go through that legal battle and fight?
Well, because dude, I mean, like at least you're going to find someone that you're going to hang with.
I have a wonderful girlfriend now. She's amazing.
But she knows you'll never marry her?
No. And she's okay with that. Yep.
And she's fine.
Yeah, she's fine with that.
At least.
For an hour at least. Then she's going to,
Now, all women want to get married.
Correct.
Eventually.
And they want a family. They want to have kids. So when that time comes, will that change my mind? It may. I mean, I have a beautiful son right now. I love, the lifestyle.
So all you're against is the legality.
Legal. I don't think for two people's love, I don't think the government should be involved in it.
I agree with that.
I know you have a phenomenal wife, beautiful family. Knock on wood. You could wake up tomorrow, or she could, and say, hey, I love you, but I'm not in love with you.
Dude, I'm the one that says that all the time. And it's usually the one that says, not my wife.
So, why?
Your wife's the one next door when you're at work.
Yeah,
and you
that's
just
right.
don't realize the dude lives next door.
That's right. And so why have the government involved in it and two people's feelings and love? That's too much control. I don't like that.
Well, there's common law marriage.
Thankfully, North Carolina doesn't seek that. But yeah, common law marriage. I looked into that right when I was going and broke up with my fiance at that time to make sure that the state does not seek that. But a lot of states seek common law marriage.
So you're like a game player almost, not in a negative way, but like you check the rules and you're aware of what's happening and you're careful. It sounds like. Well, does that come from managing money?
Yeah. You have to. When you manage other people's money, I mean, you gotta understand the rules. You gotta stay on top of it. Like a lot of stuff gets passed through the House and Congress, and a lot of those bills can affect.
Are you watching
what you do? Oh, most definitely. So, for example,
where's your source?
A great guy who we had on our podcast, Matt Kim, huge, he just tells it how it is. No bullshit type of guy.
But I need to start plugging into some of that feed.
Yeah. And then I have a CPA who's very knowledgeable. He stays on the cutting edge of it. So I have calls with him once a month to make sure that I'm getting the right information for our investors. And he knows, all the legalities, what's proposed, what's not, all that. And I think it's super important.
So did you start by just investing your own money?
Yeah. So I was a residential broker a decade ago, and I built a company. So I was a residential broker in Charlotte, and I realized there was a bunch of housewives that just sold a house a day, and I took it serious as a business. So I went door knocking, and then I realized, well, that's a waste of my time because I'm door knocking 10 houses a day. How can I really use the value of my time at a very high level? And I said, I need a cold call. I need to master scripts on the phone and then master being genuine on the phone. And that's what I did. So the first company I created was real estate brokerage, did around 40 million in annual sales in about a year and a half. I built it from scratch, and then I sold that.
And you said a decade ago, so that's you're only 19.
Yeah, so I was 19, 20.
So you started out, dude. You were like freaking on the right track from the get-go.
I will outwork anybody. I don't care what you say. You can ask my whole team. I don't need sleep. Well, I mean, I'm doing this off of 4 hours of sleep from last night. And I worked out and ran a mile this morning. I was sent home for working a 36-hour shift with no break because people, they were like, oh, here's my shift. Here's my shift. I said, well, I'll take it. I'll work. I will outwork anybody. And so that's why I got into a job essentially where I was my own boss, because I knew I would outwork my competition, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get it done.
Do you hang around like a lot of rich older people?
Now I do. Yeah, now I do. I'm in certain groups that you won't know the names of, that you have to have minimum net worth of 100 million to get into, that they bought and sold $500 million businesses, easily. And I think that helps understanding other markets at a very high level, and it gives you ideas for your company too that you can implement.
So if somebody listening said, hey, I like this guy, I want to give them some money, what's your average returns?
Our average returns right now, we're in the car wash space, and we're not getting out of it. We are not in multifamily. We're strictly in the car wash space. Right now, we're doing 10 to 12% on an annual basis with monthly distributions. Our minimum investment now just creeped up from 50 to 100,000. So that's our minimum investment.
So if I gave you 100,000, I'd start getting checks immediately
within 90 days.
And then
it's monthly. Yep.
See, people with money in 401ks, they should just be reaching out saying, hey, 12%. They're not making that.
We have a lot of investors that are using their 401ks because of the way the current market environment's at, how fluctuating it can be with the political environment too. And the big thing with car wash is we own the underlying real estate. And when I mean we, I mean us as investors. So all the investors are in the fund. We own that underlying real estate.
Well, if I get a bunch of big listeners invest in millions.
Let's do it together.
Make sure you cut me in somehow.
Let's do it together. That'll be fun.
Well, I don't know what to do with the dough.
Yeah.
I like I said, I'm a late bloomer. Mm-hmm. I make a lot of dough, and now I'm starting to pay taxes on all that dough. And I'm like, bro, I got to figure something out. Yeah. So I want to get into the real estate game, but you're saying, you're almost exiting it, but you're not, because it's still real estate.
It's still real estate. It depends. Real estate's everything. I mean, you have retail, you have industrial, you have self-storage, you have data centers. So there's so much.
But I wouldn't think car wash is real estate.
You would think?
I wouldn't.
A lot of people don't, but you can own the underlying real estate, which can be very valuable. All the deals we do, we have to own the underlying real estate. I won't do a deal without owning the underlying real estate, because it gives you options. If things start to go south, you still have that real estate. You can sell off the real estate, you can keep the real estate, sell off the business, hold it for the next 10 years, 15 years, recoup your capital.
You can sell the business and lease.
If I got put into a very worst case scenario, I would sell off the business, keep the real estate, and now I can keep the real estate for the next 20 years.
Just lease it to the
tenant.
Them,
keep it for the next 20 years. I still get my tax benefits. And then down the road, I can refinance. I can, tear down the building if it wasn't a good operation, build a retail center, you name it.
So where do you think you want to be in 10 years?
Oh, in 10 years, I'll probably exit the car wash space at probably $2 to $3 billion evaluation with just car washes.
And all those investors just get to ride with you?
Yeah. Yep.
How much do you put in on your own funds? Like if you exited and paid off all the debt and you just have to distribute it to all the people, would you get paid just management?
So we get paid upfront management fees, and then we get paid any excess cash flow after we pay our investors returns. So a lot of groups.
So if you make 20% and you owe them 12, who said you owed them 12?
Our PPM, our legal documents. So we have to abide by that.
But sometimes I thought the investors get whatever it is.
So it depends how you structure it. You can structure any deal the way you want to structure it. It all depends on what you have in those legal documents.
So I can say, give me your money and I'll give you up to 12%. And if I make 18, I take 6.
Yeah, that's right.
Do I have to guarantee the 12?
You can't guarantee anything.
So then where's the downside?
The downside is we lose everything. Just like any type of investment opportunity. So you can lose you can lose all your capital in anything. Even if you invest in the stock market, you can lose all your capital. I mean,
especially the stock market.
Look at Tesla. Tesla's up 23% yesterday because they had a great Q3 earnings, and they expect Q4 to be a great earnings. So they're up 23%. That's great. But I love Elon. He could text Some people don't like it. So, or a tweet, some people don't like it, and the stock falls. Now you're at that mercy. How we limit our risk, and I think that's the biggest thing, is there's risk in any type of investment. The question is, how do you limit the risk? We limit our risk is that we're not just buying one deal. We have a fund that has multiple deals in it. So for shit to really hit the fan, is all deals will have to go south.
Are all those books to all those funds separate? Don't you have to keep them separate?
So all the funds are separate. So we have multiple different bank accounts, and all those funds are separate. But each fund can own multiple deals. So our first fund has 5 deals. Our second fund will have another 5 deals, and I can go up to 10 deals.
Does the profit that returns to the bank before it gets distributed, don't you have an option where investors can just let it ride?
They do. Yeah. We have an option where they can go ahead and let it ride. Or how we have our first fund structured is that we refinance. We're paying investors out, and then investors take that capital and roll it into a new deal. What we talked about on my podcast is about depreciation. One thing a lot of investors don't realize is depreciation recapture. That means when you are in a deal and that sponsor decides to sell the deal for a profit, Uncle Sam knocks on your door and says, "Hey, Brad, I know you took $100,000, for example, as depreciation in your first year of this deal, but now you owe me 25% of that back." So, each of it's different, but
can't you just roll it into another deal though?
You could as a 1031. Yeah. But the way we're doing it with a refinance, our investors don't have that depreciation recapture. It's all came on myself and the company. And then investors take that excess capital, roll it into a new deal. And most do. We have about a 62% rate right now of investors rolling their capital with us.
How do you find your investors?
We find our investors through social media. So we do a lot of social media outreach. We also have our own social media page. We also have our own podcast, and then also ads that we do, social media ads. But a lot of it too comes from direct newsletters. So we have newsletters that we partner with all different type of companies, doctors, for example, and we advertise on there to allow them to see what we're doing and diversify their portfolio.
And I assume they just see your returns.
They see the returns. They see our track record. Our COO has over 12 years of car wash experience. He's built 2 separate companies, sold those off to private equity. So he's been in the game. He's done over 175 car washes. They want to see our track record. They want to see what the current fund's performing for our investors. We have referrals for investors that, if you called in and say, "Hey, let me talk to a referral." We have referrals that are previous investors and current that will chat with you to let you know how we're performing, what we do. And one thing we do too is that, and I saw this in 2022 when really the market was shifting, is I heard from multiple investors that they're in so-and-so's deal and they were doing monthly communication, monthly emails letting me know how the deal was going, and now they just went ghost. And so it happens a lot. When shit hits the fan, it happens a lot. So what I went back to the team was I said, "Hey, we're going to stop doing monthly updates to our investors, and we're going to do bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks, our investors get an update on how the fund is performing, how each deal in the fund that they've invested in is performing, and they can see it all right there."
Well, that's like a clean, tight ship.
Yeah.
You have to do that with regulation, don't you?
We don't have to. No, our PPM says monthly, but we choose to do bi-weekly because we want to over communicate to our investors, especially during.
And they like that, I bet.
Oh, they love it. I get emails saying, "Hey, thank you so much for just updating us," because we're over communicating to them, and they know what's going on.
One of our core values here is communication. Only because,
Likewise.
Dude, listen, communication is key. Matter of fact, I bought the URL Communication.
I love that.
Only because it's so key. Like, you could avoid a lot of issues just by communicating. Even if it's bad news, communicate it.
Yeah. So we have 6 core values, and 3 of them I'll tell you is 1, relationships, transparency, and communication. And you have to be transparent and you have to communicate to build the relationships. And that's what we do.
Yeah. So if I have a car wash, I always put myself in the listener position, because if I'm listening to this, I'm like, well, what if I have a car wash or I know someone who does? You're looking to buy?
Yeah. Oh, we're looking to buy heavily, mainly in the Southeast.
Is there any opportunity for listeners to where if they flip you a deal that you buy, there's a bird dog or something?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
So
numbers have to make sense. Yeah. Numbers have to make sense.
Of course. If you don't buy it, I don't get anything. But if I say, "Hey, Chris, my cousin owns a car wash in Van Nuys," and you buy it,
All you have to do is go directly to our website, qccapitalgroup.com, and then top right-hand corner, and it says invest with us. Just fill that out, and it will be, a little message right there, and just say, hey, we have a couple car washes we want to sell, and we'll take a look at it.
What if I just know somebody?
Yeah, you can,
like a referral.
Yeah, you can refer it through that way, or you can do it through Instagram. Just reach out to us.
Do you have anything that says, hey, looking to sell? Because maybe I don't want to invest. I'd never fill that out.
No, I would say the best thing is we actually do on our company, which is Aquashine Express Car Wash. We have invest with us on there, and also, if someone's interested in selling, they can just go ahead and do it. All that goes directly through us.
I'd be thinking about refer a deal.
Yeah.
Because, dude, where do you find deals? To me, as I'm getting into real estate more and more, I'm thinking in my head, dude, the value is finding the deal.
Correct. And buying right.
Well, forget all that. You can't buy it if you don't have it. Yeah. So like there's so many people out there with no money. They're not in real estate, and they don't realize finding it is just work.
It's one of your core values, relationships. You have to have the relationships with the brokers, with the mom and pops, and mainly it's brokers. I mean, yeah, two people do deals together.
Business brokers?
Yeah, it's mainly business brokers. In the car wash industry, it's so tight knit. It's still so small. It's still 85, 90% mom and pop that you have only a certain amount of business brokers, and who does the deals. Like I can tell you right now who I know that will give me a great quality deal, and I can tell you who will overprice me, and it's a waste of our time.
Well, I'm sure you can underwrite it and see if they're overpricing you.
Oh, most definitely.
Don't you just look at the revenue?
I can underwrite it just based off the revenue and the purchase price and knowing my multiple. And then I can tell you if they're high or low. And then I can dive into the financials too and then let you know. But we use also some crazy software that taps into cell phone data. So we use some software that taps into cell phone data. So it tells me Brad, it doesn't tell me Brad himself, but it tells me that, I can see how many people come visit your office on a weekly basis. I can see where they go from after. I can see if they go to the farmer's market across the street. I can see if they go to Chick-fil-A, if they go home, where they work. It all because it's cell phone data.
And it knows the cell phones came together and then separated?
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know.
That's Big Brother watching.
Do you ever close your apps when you're on your phone? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you don't, they still track you. But whenever you download an app, it says track me now or track me when using it. Well, everyone's on Instagram. Everyone's on Facebook most of the time. I think the average is like 4 hours. An adult sits on Facebook and Instagram on a daily basis. But they sell that data to companies that we subscribe to.
I'm going to close them right now.
Yeah, you better. But they're tracking you still. So this company buys that data, and then we use that data to make sure you got a lot of apps open. I see you flipping up.
Yeah, about 10.
But I'll do that
data sometimes during the day.
Yeah, and we buy that data, and that helps us to make sure that we're buying a great quality asset for our investors.
Who do you buy it from?
We buy it from, it's called Placer.ai. So shout out to Placer.ai. I don't get anything from it, but that's who we buy it from. Is it expensive? $35,000 a year subscription.
That's not bad
for two people.
If you're going to use the data.
Yeah, if you use all the data.
So I got all kinds of people listening. Investors, we covered that. If they want to invest and get 10 to 12%,
yeah,
go to qccapital.com.
Yeah, qccapitalgroup.com.
Group.com. Yeah. And then I have, people that want to be investors, but they don't have any money. They can make money by doing the work and finding deals, but you don't want to get flooded with a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, I built out a full acquisition team, so definitely don't want to get flooded with any nonsense. I mean, if it's an express tunnel and really on the East Coast, we'd be interested in taking a look at it. The revenue
express tunnel.
Yeah,
there's car washes and express tunnels.
Express tunnels. So the car wash, that's attached to the gas station right down the street from here. That's an express tunnel. It's not like the self-serve where you pull up, you get out, you do it yourself, or the full detail. I
was going to ask you because I told you I brought my Ghost the other day through the car wash because it was one of those just brushes. It can't hurt it that bad.
There's
Plus
soft
it's got
touch.
paint protection. Mm-hmm. But I was wondering, who owns this?
Yeah. I bet you
is it Chevron or wherever the gas station is, or is it like, do they lease?
No, Chevron is just like a franchise. You're just leasing the name rights to that. So there's someone that owns that gas station. They may own the car wash. They may not own the car wash.
So how do you know if they're interested in selling it?
You reach out to them. Hey, you want to sell?
See, that's an opportunity that people don't realize. Like you literally could spend 24 hours a day for the next 12 days and find a car wash that you're looking for.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll finish this year with 10. Next year, I want 20 in total, or 20 car washes next year, which is a total of 30 by the end of next year. I know it's very large, but you need the deal flow.
Why are you so excited about car washes?
It's 85-90% mom and pop owned. So it's overlooked. Bank of America just did a statistic that anyone who owns over 6 car washes is now 1% of the car wash industry. Actually, 10% of the car wash industry if you own over 6. So
really,
yeah, you're 10% of the car wash industry if you own over 6.
What if you're a developer?
Oh, that gets in a lot of politics. Developing.
But what if you build one and just own it? Is that a good business?
You can, but right now, building cost, permitting cost, everything like that, you run in the risk of cities banning car washes. We have a car wash in Florida. The city banned car wash, and I knew there was a car wash coming down the road because the software we buy tells me that permits have been pulled. It also tells me if a site is zoned for car washing, and they took down the sign because the city banned it. So if you're doing that, it's a lot of politics. It can take a lot of time. I like to buy existing because we can provide that cash flow to our investors within 90 days. If we did development, you're not going to get cash flow. The only way you'll get cash flow is if I raise extra capital to pay out those preferred returns during that construction period. And then when it's opened, start paying cash flow from or pay distributions from the cash flow.
So you don't stress every day that like city's going to ban it, or you screw up and buy something that you didn't get the data on?
Definitely. Well, not that if the, like for example, Cape Coral, they banned car washes. I'm fine with that because now I have a car wash in there and it sits on a beautiful block and it's going to be one of our highest performing car washes. I'm very happy on that. Now what my goal is to go buy the other mom and pops in the area and now create that in that city that we are the car wash. When it comes to Aquashine Express car wash, that's it. When it comes to making a bad investment, there's always that thought of what happens if shit hits the fan. And the great thing is we stress test our deals. So I know okay, this deal has to really perform at this level to have shit hit the fan. Then I'm worried because I'm signing recourse on all this debt. But another great thing too is that, again, the fund has multiple deals in it. And that's how you hedge your risk. Is the fund has multiple deals in it.
Diversification?
Correct. You're not just buying one car wash on the block here in hopes that this car wash performs.
Well, then you need a lot of money in those funds.
That's right. That's why we raise a lot of money.
And just raising money is newsletters, referrals, what?
Newsletters, referrals. A lot of it's previous clients that are referring other clients in to our fund. A lot of that is, past referrals. And then we also generate a lot of new investors through social media ads and also our social media platforms that we have.
So do you have to talk to these investors?
Oh, yeah.
Do they grill you?
Oh, they grill me left and right. They fly out. They do. Some are very high
with $100,000 or bigger ones? No,
our big ones. Like our big ones, $3 million. They'll fly out. Like for example, we just had an investor invest $4.2 million. He flew into Charlotte, had dinner with myself. I flew my COO in. We had dinner with him.
And basically, they just write you a check and expect returns.
That's right.
When they're done.
Yep, and we have to perform.
Now, what are their rights? When I say, okay, I want my money back?
You have to wait till the liquidity event. So
is that standard?
Yeah, it's standard. Like Grant too. You have to wait till the liquidity event. There are some funds out there that will be like debt funds where you have a 90-day liquidity event option where you go ahead and call your capital and then within 90 days they give it to you. But what happens if, that operator doesn't have a strong balance sheet and they have $100 million they just lent out and then $100 million asks for their money back in 90 days? They're not going to be able to do it, so that's
what happens. Does it go bust?
Well, no, I mean, that operator's going to have to go back and say, hey, look, our money's already lent out. We have to wait till we get the money back. And now you're just going to have to wait. But most funds are illiquid, so expect when you invest into these private placements that they're illiquid. You have to wait to some liquidity event to go ahead and recoup capital.
And you decide that?
Essentially, yes.
Which means that's why they're having dinner. They better trust your ass.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And all of them.
Have you ever had someone call you with the blues saying they needed their money, but you couldn't do anything for them?
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, a year ago, I had an investor call and he said, hey, I'm filing bankruptcy. Can I get my money back? And I said, unfortunately, your money's in the real estate. Like I can't I can't sell the real estate right now.
Why couldn't you say I'll list it for sale with other investors? Why wouldn't, if I had a piece, I'll buy his little spot.
So there is options like that in the way our funds are structured, where the GP team, which is us, will take a look at it. If we pass, then we go ahead and offer it to other investors. And if other investors pass, then you have to hold your capital in there until we have that liquidity event.
But if all the investors, especially the GPs, why wouldn't you buy it?
Because you also have to stay very liquid. So the banks make us stay 10% liquid. So if I have $100 million worth of real estate, I have to have $10 million in the bank sitting there.
Just in case what?
In case if I miss a mortgage payment, the bank can say, hey, you're liquid, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and make that payment. Because if you don't have 10%, then you're illiquid, you can default on a loan.
What if someone's listening, they want to do what you're doing?
Yeah. So
how do you get into doing what you're doing? How did you get into this?
Into private equity or car washing?
Yeah. Well, no, not car washing, because to me, that's just an avenue in which you're making investments. You're a hedge fund.
Oh, not a hedge fund. We're private equity. So we run multiple funds. And essentially how I did it was I studied other individuals doing it. I mean, like I said earlier, I studied Grant Cardone when he first had his first couple funds, when he really wasn't who he was today. And I read the PPM, which put me to sleep. But I understood the PPM and fund structure.
How? By college?
No, I dropped out of college.
So how did you get this experience?
By reading the old school way. I would read funds, and then I would go ahead and reach out to SEC attorneys and have calls with SEC attorneys to understand what's the legality here. What's, the ins and outs about the structure of a 506B or a 506C, a Reg D, a Reg CF, all of that. How's all that structured?
Dude, so ultimately you're like an undercover nerd.
Ultimately.
Who would want to know that shit?
Well, what I realized is if you look at any billionaire out there, they all raise capital. Look at Elon Musk. He bought Twitter, or now X. What did he do? He raised capital from JP Morgan, from sovereign wealth funds over there in Dubai. He raised capital. Look at all your billionaires. If you want to be a billionaire, you need to raise capital. You need to have the ability to raise capital and manage capital.
And who would I start with? Let's say I say, man, I need to start raising capital. Like, what would I do?
The best thing to do is, one, I always say, find an SEC attorney to understand the legality on how to raise capital, because you can't just raise capital. I can't, go out and publicly raise capital if I don't have that formation together. And if you're publicly raising capital on social media, you have to run as a 506C, and that means you can only accept accredited investors. So we can only accept accredited investors, which is someone who makes over $250,000 or more if they're married, or for the past 2 years and expect to make it in that calendar year. Or if they're married, that number can be 300, or have a minimum net worth of 1 million, excluding your primary residence. If you don't meet those qualifications, you're not an accredited investor. We can't work with you.
So if someone's making $30,000 a month, they're accredited.
Well, yeah, if they're making $30,000 a month for the past 2 years and expect to make it this year too, then they are accredited, and we have a third party that does it. So when you come in, even if you came into one of our deals, we would have to send you to a third party, which are attorneys and CPAs, and or your financial advisor or CPA can sign off on a letter saying Brad is an accredited investor. Then we can actually go ahead and bring you into our deal. Other than that, we do not work with any non-accredited investors.
Yeah, have you learned the hard way, or you just did it right from the get-go?
I did it right from the get-go. And my thing is that I'm not going to take because if you're a non-accredited investor, that means you haven't made 250,000 or have a minimum net worth of $1 million. And so you are more than likely going to rely on that $50,000 if that 50,000 is lost. If you are an accredited investor and you're making 500 or $1 million or $1 million plus, and you lose 50,000, it's not going to be the end of the world for you. And so at the very front of the get-go, I said, look, to limit any risk, we're going strictly accredited. We are not doing any non-accredited, because when you have non-accredited, you have individuals that are not sophisticated, which then can get you into a lot of trouble if they don't understand it properly.
Because they'll feel like you took advantage of them.
Correct. Look, our friend Grant Cardone, he runs a Reg CF. You can invest, I think his minimum is like 500 or 5,000 into his deals. That's a lot of people. And he's raising big money. I mean, he's raising 50, 100 million for his deals. $5,000, that's a lot of people you're having in there. What about if one person, which you probably have 500 people at 5,000 is, investing, one person's upset, that can shut down everything.
Yeah, again, see, that's why I don't do it, because a lot of people say, Brad, you got a lot of followers. You can raise some funds easy.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I could.
Yeah.
but I don't do it until I know that I can return.
Oh yeah. So I think
you'll never. By the way, if you ever hear me say I'm raising funds for something, you better invest, because I'll tell you right now, brother.
You've done the due diligence,
dude. I would not. Yeah. I would not want your dollar unless I knew I could take it and triple it or do whatever I was doing with it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go, give me 100 million. And then I'll try.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, give me 100 million because I have a winner.
Correct.
Or I wouldn't do it at all.
And that's how you should do it. Like our big investors like yourself that, can raise capital from their network. They do full background checks. I mean, I've had to submit that, yes, I've dropped out of college, and they've reached out to my previous college and saying, okay, you dropped out at, on this day. And I'm like, yep. And I had to do a questionnaire, and then they matched it up to make sure that the day I dropped out is the day I said I dropped out.
This is the SEC?
No. This is an investor doing a background check, and he's placing a couple million with us, but he wanted to make sure that, I'm legitimate, that I come clean, I'm not a felon.
So if my country ass decided to raise funds and I don't like all that, would I just not be a good fit?
No, I mean,
if someone says, what day did you drop out of college? I'd say, shit, I don't know. And then, I found out you did this. Well, shit, I didn't even remember.
I mean, so if an investor is doing that to invest in one of your funds, then you may say, hey, this may not be a good fit for us.
I thought all you need is the proof with the past performance.
Each investor is different. So
do you ever turn people down?
I turn people down based off of our conversations. Like if you came to me and said, I have 100,000 in my savings account, I'm going to say, well, you said the word savings account, and that means that you probably don't have any more. And I ask you directly, is this 100,000 that you're relying on? Is this the only 100,000 you have? And if you say something in the words of, oh, I inherited, or yes, this is in my savings account, I'm going to say, hey, we're not a good fit. I've said it too when investors are needy. Investors that are blowing me up, and I'm like, hey, we're not going to be a good fit. If there's no trust, there's not going to be a good fit. We have some investors that think our 10 to 12% is low.
So if I have people because I get hit up all the time.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
I have $200,000. What should I do? And I'm like, no idea.
If that's their last,
not a lot.
Yeah. If that's their last 200, we're not the group for you.
Well, what they're saying, I assume, because I don't go too far into it because I'm not trying to get that money, but they'll just say, hey, I've saved up $100,000. So it's probably not their only $100,000, but if I save up $100,000 to invest, it's right around all I got, and I'm trying to get started, and they're asking me, where should I put this?
Yeah.
What if I were to say, as an example, QC Capital, you'll get 12% on your money. What do I get?
I would ask more questions, because if that's their last 100,000, I would not want to do it, because they need to go invest in a CD, a 6-month CD to earn 4% right now for the next, annually, and build that up to where
how much do I need to where you're not saying that?
Well, I'm going to ask your risk tolerance. I'm going to say, hey, Brad, okay, this 100,000.
I'm willing to risk it all. Otherwise, I wouldn't be considering giving it to you.
Okay, so if you lost this 100,000, Brad, would you still be able to live and make sure your family's taken care of? Okay.
But I'd be freaking bummed.
Well, yeah, I would be bummed too, but you would still be able to live. This is not your last 100,000. How much do you make annually? I would ask those questions.
Is that part of that app?
What app?
To be an investor.
Well, yeah. So when that third party that you go through, so when you come to me as an investor, I'm going to say, hey, we have a third party, one called Parallel. It's free. You can get an accreditation. You have to submit your tax returns. You have to submit bank statements to them, and they're CPAs and attorneys that review that to then say, yes, you are an accredited investor. So if you go there and you don't meet those requirements, they're going to come back and say, hey, you're not, and then we just can't work with you.
Yeah, because you seem a little bit not the norm. Most, you would assume, want the money. In other words, don't tell me it's your last $100,000, bro. Just wire it.
I want to be, one of our core values is being transparent, and worst case scenario for any deal, it could go south and you could lose that money.
Yeah, but historically you're not. We all have to say, we understand it could go south.
Correct. Yes.
And by the way, just for, I don't even know if I have to disclaim it, but I'm not a financial advisor.
Yeah.
But you're willing to lose it. Otherwise you wouldn't be investing it.
Yeah. And most are, you have to take some sort of risk with any investment.
Yeah. I had a couple of high school buddies of mine that we've stayed in touch, and they call me with this deal, and I'm like, sure, $100,000. And I get, 40% of the deal. And, I could see the financials, and I know the industry a little bit. So I said, okay, which I usually don't, but I said, okay, throw them the money. They have a couple good years, boom. Then they just start tanking the thing. And now it's tanked. I lost like, let's say $1 million and change. But I'm not trying to get it back. I'm not filing with the SEC. I'm not calling lawyers.
You're a great investor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, shit happens. And it is their fault, and they are stupid, and I hope they're listening.
Well, make sure you write that off, too.
Well, that's...
that loss.
I'm pretty sure I did.
Okay.
But my point is like, I wouldn't have done it if it was my only money.
But some people do. I mean, look at you're in Vegas. I walk through the casino, and I see these people hitting a button at a slot machine, and what goes through my mind is, do you not know that's rigged? It's a computer.
So how much do I need in order to feel good? So like I'm looking for a percentage. So like, hey, if you only have 100, you can go buy a CD. Well, what if I have 500 and I'm willing to give you 100?
That's perfectly fine.
Then I'm cool.
Yeah. So, if you have 500, you.
So if I want to invest 100, should I look to get 200 or 300 or 400 or 500 before I invest?
I would say you should always want a safety net, and not necessarily. It all depends on everyone's risk tolerance. Obviously, if you're growing a huge big business, you're going to have to take a lot of risk. But if you are an individual that just wants to invest passively, be okay with losing that capital. And I want to make sure that you would still be able to feed your family at night, and you are not on the streets if you lose $100,000. And that's why the SEC is in place. And that's why the SEC says if you're an accredited investor and you lose an investment, because of your sophistication already, you're making good money, you can go ahead and actually live with losing an investment. And that's why we only work with accredited investors, because they're more sophisticated than a non-accredited investor.
So what's your day like? Like you wake up, what do you do?
So I wait. I don't sleep much, but I wake up 5:36 in the morning, and I check on what's going on globally. I want to know what's China doing. I want to know the global.
How do you do that? Because I want to do that too.
So I subscribe. I can send it to you. I subscribe to some. I do subscribe to Bloomberg and a couple other financial services like Benzinga, and I get notifications throughout the evening on what's going on in the markets across seas, what's going on and what's going to impact our market here in the United States. Even though I'm not in the market, I have investors that ask. I got an email last week. An investor says, "Chris, what's your opinion on Harris and Trump's election, and how will that impact my investment?" And I had to respond to the email and let them know my opinion. So you have to be knowledgeable about what's going on. You have to be knowledgeable about their policy so you can speak on it at a high level to these sophisticated investors. So I do that early in the morning. I meditate 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do my professional meditation with it guided 1 hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays evening. But from there, I get to the office early. I cut out coffee. I used to love coffee, but I actually hired Zac Efron's nutrition and training coach. And so I'm cutting out coffee, really watching my diet and my intake. But in the mornings, I get there to the office around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then throughout the day, it's multiple phone calls with bank presidents, with high net worth investors, making sure our systems and processes are in place, making sure our acquisition team, if they have any issues, our asset management team, if they have any issues with deals, essentially is putting out fires throughout the day. But it's mainly calls with bank presidents of deals, talking about buying banks. I had a call with a bank president who I'm going to talk to this afternoon, and in 5 years, he wants to start his own bank. And he just sold his bank for $97 million. So I'm talking to him about, hey, we're buying a deal from you guys directly. 5 years, who knows? I may own a bank. But those are the type of conversations I have throughout the day. Podcast, we record on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Which podcast?
The Chris Salerno Show. We talk about real estate, business, family, and health on that show.
So go subscribe to that show.
Yeah.
How many subscribers you got? A lot?
We're pushing, I think, like anywhere from 10,000 downloads on a monthly basis so far. Looking
You're already bigger
really,
than most of them.
Really to boosting that up more. So
you must be providing some value.
That's all it's about,
Only because I was on it.
I know.
It's kind of a same format as this. You're just kind of shooting the shit.
I know.
Talking about things.
Yeah. And I like to work out once a day too. That's important to me, is working out once a day. Most of the meetings I have is around stuff I like, because I'm so busy during the day. Like you and I said, we're going to talk. I said, hey, I'll fly out here. Let's have a cigar. I enjoy having a cigar, but then we can talk business over a cigar. So when investors come to the city, I either have dinner or I go have cigars with them, things like that. And then I'm a single father, so I make sure I spend time with my son, making sure he's tough, and he's big into soccer now. So I go out and play soccer with him and, enjoy life.
All in Charlotte.
All in Charlotte.
So the overall day is work, sounds like.
Yeah, overall day is work, putting out fires, building the company. There's a couple other companies we're creating too, a couple other umbrellas within QC Capital as a whole. So that gives us options, as QC Capital is the umbrella company that owns Aquashine Express. It owns a couple other companies within QC Capital. So I can sell QC Capital one day, I don't plan to, or I can sell all the other subsidiary companies underneath it.
Do you have to have a good legal team in place to understand how to structure all that?
Oh, I have right now, just off the top of my head, I have minimum 10 attorneys for different things. SEC attorneys, personal attorneys, litigation attorneys for each state. I have each state that we buy in attorneys, understanding the tax laws of it, 100%. Because I think the biggest thing is, as you start to create fame or build wealth, people want a piece of it. And you have to learn how to preserve it. So it's hard building it, but once you build it, no one really teaches, hey, Brad, how do you preserve it and then grow it? That's wealth. So you have to make sure you have the right legal team in place.
Do you own any Berkshire Hathaway?
I don't, no. I have a good friend who owns a lot of Berkshire Hathaway, though.
I was going to just buy one Class A share or whatever to just get to the meeting.
You should. I think he's very intelligent. It's sad that his business partner passed away, who's very intelligent as well, but he's sitting on a lot of capital right now. I think he has the most capital.
I'm wondering why, though.
Correct. I mean, he's over, I think, 250 billion that he's sitting on.
He's up there. All kinds of shit.
And he's sitting on it. So he's seeing something.
Yeah, he's seeing that there's about to be blood in the water.
Correct. And he's going to capitalize on it.
Sure he is.
Yeah, he's definitely.
You see the blood? What do you see?
I definitely see the blood. I think multifamily is going to take a hit, even more than what it is, just given the current market environment, supply and demand of housing. I definitely see the blood out there. It's definitely going to depend on who wins this presidential election. Essentially, I think is going to be a big change.
So, do you think if Trump wins, everyone that's in capitalism and business is going to be like, "Oh, thank God"?
I think so.
And what happens if the Harris wins?
Well, I mean, how's the past 4 years been? You know, she's been in vice president for the past 4 years. And if you just look at the state of the economy, inflation, it's been high, substantial.
So would it continue the same or
I think so.
Or increase?
I think it will continue the same. I think even get worse. I mean, look at the stock market. What today's Friday, or I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday. Bloomberg posted that stock market is expecting a Trump presidency. That's why it's up right now. That they're anticipating Trump to win. So everyone's happy.
Well, they anticipated it when Joe did.
I know, right? So we'll find out. You never know. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to come down to one state. I think that state's probably going to be Georgia or Pennsylvania that it comes down to.
Do you have plans in case Harris wins?
No. I can't. I know what's going to happen with some of the policies and things like that. We stress test all of our deals, so I have a good understanding of if she wins, if things start to tank, where our bottom line is for our deals. But I think it's very important to keep an open mind on it, because whoever makes office this come election, Harris or Trump, I can't dictate what I'm going to do in a whole based off of their presidency. I still invested under Biden. So past 4 years, I've been investing very heavily.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, when you said look at the last 4 years, I'm thinking, again, obviously shit's up and gas is up and all this crap. But
real estate prices commercial real estate prices are substantially down. Substantially down.
We're fine, and people are still buying and so it's
at
like,
a lower
to me,
rate,
I always say, look, that's just skies falling shit. Like, if Trump wins, cool. I think we'll be better off.
I think we will.
But if Harris wins, whatever. I'm going to keep plowing forward. Oh,
I am too. I'm going to keep investing. I mean, with her winning, I'm not going to stop investing. And no one should actually, I think have that type of philosophy is, if a president wins or, either or, I'm going to stop investing as a whole. I don't think that's right.
So in your mind, if a bunch of people invested $100 million from the show, which again, don't expect that much. Yeah, but I expect your phone to ring.
Oh, I can't wait.
The question would be, is it all car washes for the next foreseeable? Like you're not interested in looking at deals? Because I was thinking part of your day would be, I need to look at some deals. Why? Because dude, if I was in this business, I want to see deals.
I have a team for that. So
that's the acquisition team.
That's my acquisition.
So they're looking at deals.
Oh, they're hunting deals. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in the mornings for 30, 40 minutes, I meet with our COO and our head of acquisitions. And that's where he comes and presents, okay, hey, because I'm not going to look at a bunch of deals. It could be a waste of time. So he and the team go ahead and weed through all the deals, and the deals that meet our preliminary criteria, he brings to us.
And you're the one that decides.
Yes. And my COO has definitely, I give him say tremendously, because he's spent over 12 years in the car wash business. He exited 2 large companies to private equity. So he has a lot of knowledge in it. So I definitely lean on a lot of his knowledge. However, at the end of the day, because I'm signing personally liable, I'm bringing investors' capital at risk, I am going to make sure the final say is on me. So
you're only looking for car washes
right now. Yeah. The cash flow very high and the tax benefits are huge.
So if I busted in to that meeting, I wouldn't see multifamily projects.
No.
Or development projects.
Nope.
Or
strictly car washes.
Strictly car washes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like laundromats too.
I always, as I'm listening to guests, if I believe them, which I believe you, I start thinking, how do I get into this? So I wouldn't get in like full force or anything, but like I'd start putting the word out. Hey, car washes, send me your car washes. Yeah. Like if anybody's got car washes, send them to me. I'll get them to him.
No, you will. Most definitely.
Just go direct. But so I just don't understand why you wouldn't be interested in making money. Because if I gave you 100 million or 100,000, why are you only limited? Is that the max return you think is out there?
No, it's not necessarily the max return.
Why would you brush off all the rest of them?
Because I believe in definitely focusing on your one thing and doing it at a very high level. We haven't mastered car washes at a high level. I want to get us to over $1 billion. And so we have to put a lot of time and energy into it. But investors also want to see that you understand. You know that market very, very well. And there are groups out there that diversify in a lot of different type of asset classes, and their investors are okay with it. Our investors love that we have multifamily assets that we currently still have, that we've pivoted because we saw the current market environment and they all want high cash flow right now, and car washes provide that. Give me any deal, I'll evaluate it with you, and very rarely it's going to produce the cash flow that the car washes can produce. Because the biggest thing is, like, let's say, for example, you're in a deal. We talked about it. I won't name names, but you're in a deal. We talked about the deal you're in, and you invest $100,000 in that deal, and you're expecting a 10% return. So that's $10,000 a year, $811 a month, and you're expecting those returns, right? And so, but if you evaluate the deal and the deal only cash flows 2%, well, how are you going to get that difference? Whoa. That's the biggest question, is when you evaluate a deal, is you can evaluate, I can tell you 10%, but you now have to go down and look at the P&L. You have to see how much is that deal actually cash flowing. And if the deal's not cash flowing 10%, then your question to me is, well, Chris, how are you going to pay my return if the deal doesn't even cash flow 10%? And that's what a lot of deals that people are in, is that they didn't look at the cash flow. They didn't understand the cash flow and how it's operated. And they're in deals expecting a 10, but now they're only getting a 2 because the deal only cash flows 2%. Will that deal ever get up to 10? That's going to be very difficult. That large of a gap, you're going to have to increase value substantially.
What would you want the bomb squad to do for you if you could just ask them to do you a favor? They
can follow us on social media. That's one thing that we like to pour out great content. Individuals like yourself with our podcast on Instagram is Chris_Salerno_. We're actually doing a giveaway for your listeners as well. Is that if they have to follow you, of course, but if they go ahead and follow us on Instagram, in our bio, we will have a link ready to go that they'll submit their information, and we're actually flying one person out. This is a third party that will do the raffle. We're going to fly one person out to Charlotte, North Carolina, so they can spend a couple days with me. They can see the operations, they can see what we're doing, everything and anything, and they can be on the podcast as well.
Do you personally spend a lot of money? Like, do you have like Rolls Royces and fly private and shit like that? Or are you conservative as hell?
Not I've flown private before, love it. And I'm a big car guy. Obviously I'm in the car business, essentially I wash cars. So I love cars. I love R8s, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, love all those type of cars. I have a Range Rover right now. But I am a big advocate and enthusiast in the car business. I don't own a Lamborghini or a Ferrari at the moment. I will. My time is coming. I know it is. And it's going to be big. My business partner jokes with me. He says, Chris, you're going to own a private jet before you own your own home. And I said, probably, because I love private aviation, not only for the fact that, it feels different and it's great, but it's a time machine. And that's why, because time is very valuable. So, give it a couple more years, I will, but I don't need it right now because those cars, Lamborghini, Ferrari, they're not going out of business. They're not going to file for bankruptcy. If they did, some big private equity company will buy them out. So they'll be around in 5 years from now. I probably won't want them if they all go EV. I like the sound of the engines.
Rolls Royce isn't.
Well, I know one of my favorite cars is the Wraith. And I know the last one, they went EV on it.
Well, they made one, but you can still get full gas.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that with the Wraith. Okay.
Yeah, you can still go full gas.
Well, that's what I'm going to want to do.
Ferrari's going EV. It's like, come on.
Lotus is all going EV, like all these companies, with all the, but it's the power grid can't handle it. I've talked to some of the big CEOs that run and advise Duke Energy, the White House, and they even told me, they're like, well, I will always have a gas car because the power grid just can't handle it.
Well, last question I would ask is what should people be investing in? But clearly, after this conversation, car washes.
I think the unsexy businesses make it. I mean, look at it's getting more and more plumbing, HVAC, all those type electrical companies. Those are going to be owned by private equity, and they're already coming in and buying up those companies left and right. Those are unsexy businesses that are necessities.
What do you think about AI affecting the car wash space?
Oh, AI is wild. When you get into our car wash, we're tracking everything, every single little dent or scratch on your car before it goes through, when it comes out. AI is a whole different ball game. And even with the software that we buy to, cell phone data, that has a lot of AI. So I think if you use it right, you can make strategic investments. You can make a lot of money. It's here to stay. So if you don't know about it, you better figure it out.
Would I run into you at these car wash conventions?
I don't go to them. I did in all of 2023 because that's when I immersed myself in knowledge. I went to manufacturing facilities, chemical plants, all of that, and I went to them. You won't, but you'll soon see a subsidiary company that I'm in the works of creating that will be at every single car wash convention. Yeah.
Because if I want to jump in a car wash, I'd be headed to those conventions to see what the different machines are. Because what if I bought a car wash and it had the wrong machine, and I didn't realize if I replaced that machine, I'd get 20% higher returns?
That's the issue, is that these mom and pops don't realize that. And we're buying it bulk, so we get better discounts.
I know, but it sounds like you have all the systems and processes that a normal person wouldn't have. But
it took me about a year and a half, just myself alone, to come up with all these systems and processes. And then I found the right person as our COO to run operations. That's the key.
That's why it's smarter just to invest with someone that knows what they're doing rather than try to take this podcast and go become a car wash guy.
Yeah. I mean, look at KKR. Are you familiar with KKR? They're like BlackRock and Blackstone, Carlyle. They're KKR, I think, manages like $3 trillion. They're a huge company. They just bought a Quick Quack, which you guys have some Quick Quacks out here in Vegas, $850 million as a minority stake into their car wash company. I'm glad they did, because they kicked out some investors and they came to us. So thank you to KKR for doing that. But yeah, private equity is getting into it heavily, and you're going to see a lot more investments into it because it's 85-90% mom and pop owned.
Well, dude, you're an impressive young man. I feel like an old dog saying that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, at 29, I wish I was as freaking astute as you are, but man, I was running around like a goofball. But hey, it's never too late to freaking change. Folks, go follow this cat at Chris_Salerno_. You guys, if you want to invest, go to gccapitalgroup.com. If you want to flip him deals, go hit the website. And as always, until next time, keep it real. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you.